Give me 1 second. Let me open up. All right. Again, good morning to everybody. Today is April 17th, Sunday. Again, a foolish declaration at the start, just so that I remember what session is this. Let's do paint or where is it? All right, Jyoti, can you ask me the question, please, just for the recording purpose?
Please explain the difference between Jenkins plugin installation manager and Jenkins configuration as a code.
Okay. So let's talk usually the way we talk, right? We'll look backwards. Today, I had sent a message in WhatsApp. You saw that, right? The first one, which says you are not able to connect the dots looking forward, but you can always connect dots looking backward. And when I started reading it, I came to know where my strategy is probably coming from, although I didn't know about that earlier. So what we are trying to do is we want to have a Jenkins instance. In a traditional world, what would you do? You'll have a EC2 instance and you'll go and install Jenkins on it. Correct? That's the first thing you're going to do. What's the second thing that you're going to do? You're going to install plugin, correct? What's the third thing that you're going to do? Probably this third thing is what you're missing because you haven't seen me in action doing that. But yesterday you probably saw we went into the Jenkins, manage Jenkins, and we did some kind of configuration. I told you yesterday, or I'm not sure whether you looked at the document which I sent, how to configure SES to send out notification. Did anybody check that document?
Yes, sir. Yes, but I need to implement Romana.
Romana, okay. So you did see that document. Did anybody else notice that I have sent that document in WhatsApp? Sojanya, did you notice it?
Yes, sir.
Actually, I noticed morning somewhere yesterday full. I didn't see any messages.
Okay, so please download that document. And as I suggested, right, there are so many nice things which I'm sending in WhatsApp which are not recorded at all. Most of the time it is coming from the fact, most of the time it's coming from the fact that we do something in the session and we are not able to resolve it during the session. And then I work on it and I send you the solution, which are production grade. So I'll go through it. Actually, that's what I wanted to go through today. Please remind me to go through it today, all the settings that I've sent you. But what I would suggest you is have your own folder. In that folder, start creating a document, which is a playbook, and put a title, write a description with all the screenshot, title, description. And then what you could have is this title, you can make it as heading and have an index out of it. So that way, if you ever get into trouble or want to know how it is to be done, you can just go to the index that you want to go to. So if you're able to make that kind of a document, it will help you a lot when you start working. Or when you come across a problem, you say, oh, you know what, I have done this, but I don't remember where I've done this. Like yesterday, I was telling you, right? I know that URL, that webhook, GitHub webhook URL, that can be changed and that can be derived from Jenkins. So that's where I was trying to search. And yesterday I sent out how to do that because it's very obvious we can forget. All right, coming back to where the reason I was saying is this SES document. If you look at the SES document, you would see there are some configurations that I'm putting in to configure SES. There are some credentials that I'm creating, right? Yesterday we created credentials, Jenkins credentials. Now, what is the third thing that you're going to do? You're going to configure plugins, create credentials, etc. Anything to do with configuration. Creating credential also is a configuration to me. So I would not really mention it separately. I would just say configure plugins. Now, and this is not something new, okay? In one of the previous sessions, we have talked about this in depth. So I would really suggest you watch those videos. You're not watching the videos. But good, these questions are good. I want these questions to come in, but the only thing what I'm saying is go through those videos again. Now, there are 3 things that we are doing. Okay. Are you clear up until here, Jyoti?
Yes, Samir.
Now, if this particular instance that you had installed get destroyed for whatever reason, right? Somebody comes in and does wrong configuration and it stops failing. And now you have to troubleshoot figuring out what went wrong. But instead of that, you say, okay, let's destroy it and create a new one. When you create a new one, what you have to do again? Install Jenkins, install plugins. Yeah, for sure. Before installing Jenkins, you have to provision your EC2 instances if you're doing in cloud, so on and so forth. Set up your security groups, everything, right? And then you'll do all these steps again. Agree?
Yes.
If you want to do it faster, what's the best option? The best option is you have to automate it. If you have to automate it, what is the way to go forward? We have used Terraform. To do installation of Jenkins, what did we do? We used the AWS instance. And in there, we have used user data, correct?
Correct.
To install Jenkins. So installation of Jenkins is taken care of. Setup of Jenkins is what we missed. This is where Romana asked if we could automate it, and I said maybe we can automate it, but at the moment we have not done anything to automate it. You remember that screen comes up, and then we have to go and enter the code, and then say next or whatever. You remember the screen, right, Jyoti?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I would love it to be a little bit collaborative if possible. You know, you can stay on mute because this is your question, right? So please stay on mute. The next thing, what is it? Installing plugin. To install the plugin, what I said was there are 2 ways to do it. One is you can use Jenkins CLI install plugin method. And we have looked at Jenkins CLI, if you remember. And I showed you how you can go and try to, as a part of your assignment, several commands, right? One of the command is install plugin. Okay, we haven't really done it this way. What we did was we have used Jenkins plugin manager. Okay, Jenkins plugin manager goes by a very under the hood. It might be using the Jenkins CLI only. Okay, I wouldn't doubt that. But what it gives you is it says declare all your plugin in a file. Call that file as plugins.txt or YAML or YAML. Okay, one of those. And that's the file that we see over here. That's the file we see over here. And these are the plugins that we are saying we have to install. So now the beautiful thing, what happens is instead of calling Jenkins CLI install plugin on several times for each of the plugin, you are able to just specify the plugin names and maybe if required even the versions in one single file and just call the Jenkins java-jar command on that Jenkins plugin manager just once. What it does, it installs the plugin. It installs the plugin. It doesn't configure the plugin. It doesn't do this. There's a thin line between installing something and configuring something. Same as over here, installing Jenkins and setting up Jenkins. You understand the thin line between these two?
Yes, Samir, clear.
That is what we have done. So we have done first part, we have done second part. The third part of configuring the plugins that you install is not done yet. That is to do. That is where JCASC comes into picture. JCASC, if I go here now, if I go here and go to Jenkins here, and then if I go to manage Jenkins, and as part of my plugin manager, I've already installed, if I show you here, I've already installed configuration as code. So I didn't have to install it as part of post installation strategy. As part of my installation, it comes in. So for that, come on, I don't want you to save anything. That's the reason why you see this. If the configuration as code was not installed, this little captain wouldn't show here. So this captain, if you click here, this is very easy actually, okay? It's very, very easy. What it allows you to do is, it says, apply new configuration. If you had a configuration file saved somewhere in a path and your environment variable was defined, okay, or you paste the path to the URL where your file is, it'll go and apply that configuration automatically. Now you'll ask me, how do I create that configuration? The easiest way to create a configuration, or at least derive from, is here. So you can say view configuration. I know there will be some errors there because of the role-based strategy. It's fine. We'll have to clean this up when we create a file. But look at this configuration over here. If I had to destroy this and recreate it, all of these credentials I'll have to recreate. So GitHub login credential, you remember yesterday we created?
Yes.
You remember the GitHub webhook secret? You didn't remember maybe because I've put it up into WhatsApp as a best practice. We didn't talk about it yesterday. I did it later and I said, it's always a good practice to use a secret because you don't want anybody to call your URL. You want them to come with the associated secret so that you can verify the person who's calling you, that is GitHub, is a genuine person, okay, or system, whatever it is. So if I save this file, I do some bit of cleanup to remove all of these errors, and then just review at high level. If everything looks good, clean up what is not required, I should be able to come in with blank configuration and then just give a path to this file, wherever that file is. It will automatically create those credentials and all the other configuration for me. Do you understand the difference now? Or still not clear?
Clear.
Okay, Romana, Saujanya, Mansa, is this clear or not
Clear,
clear?
Samir.
Is it clear now, or was it always clear even before?
Clear to me what this concept, Romana here.
Romana, what was that?
Yeah, it was clear to me earlier, Samir.
Okay. Okay.
This was our assignment, right? Mine
Yes.
and Saujanya's, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
Thank you.
JCSC is still pending to be done. Okay. I would want you to take a look at this file, which I just showed you. Do a cleanup of that file after reading through the documentation. Okay. Look at this configuration. For example, yesterday Anil was setting up the SCS for me. Okay, he would have already set up. He's also trying to spend some time on this. So if you go in here and go to configure system. So this is the plugin configuration that I'm talking about. Okay, plugin configuration is different from installation. And again, please do not shy away from asking question. Asking question is always good. If you come down here, I don't see it has been set up yet. We can take a look at it today. I don't see it set up, but I don't know why it was showing this configuration over here. Maybe it is just stale. Yeah, and as per the documentation, they always say, this is just a reference for you. You should not consider this as a very fair file. Security. Oh, okay, this is the user that I've added. It's not the SES configuration. So even the users will get created as part of this configuration file if you see it. Okay. All right. Any questions?
Clear, Samir.
Okay. Who's going to work on the JCASC? Romana, is that you?
Yeah, I am Saujanya, Samir.
Even I am working, Samir.
Okay. So take a look, see how you're going to do it, how you're going to run the JCSSE. I'm thinking almost similar to how your Jenkins setup is, that you have to get in and do it. It's fine. You can log into Jenkins, set up Jenkins, and then load the configuration file, and all of your plugins should be automatically configured. That's the whole idea. Okay. All right. Let's go through.
And where do you want to save the config file?
They have they have no, they have given a path. So similar to how we are doing plugins.yaml, right? You'll have to have a configuration file over here and you'll copy it to a specific path. So if you read through the documentation, they would tell you what is the default path where they want it to be put, from where they, if you do not give the path to the file, it automatically loads from there when Jenkins starts.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, do it. I mean, see, the thing is, I can solve it. If I sit on it with you, I will be able to solve it. But what will happen is you'd see everything is working great, but you'll not learn anything from it. Right? So the whole purpose is that you should be able to learn. So let's go through this quickly. This is on Udemy. Datadog, it's not a part of our syllabus, but it's a very hot topic in today's market. Okay. This is more for monitoring and observability. And APM, it's an APM tool, basically. APM is application performance monitoring tool. It does much more than that, actually, but it's free. That's the reason why I sent it to you. Let's look over here. Jyoti and Mansa haven't confirmed if they got it working. So Jyoti and Mansa, did you get the whole Jenkins flow working? Whatever Saujanya and Romana confirmed they were able to do? The ACM certificates, the Route 53 domain, so on and so forth?
Yes, Samir.
Okay. That yes,
I didn't try some. Yeah.
Okay. Please do try, because otherwise what will happen is we will keep running further and somewhere you will feel lost.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And you get the whole week, basically. You get Monday to Friday to get it done. Right. Otherwise, I'm completely fine if you come and tell me, Samir, let's drop the sessions for one of the weekends. We want more time to go through your videos, because I'm watching the number of hours that are being watched on it. I do not see people are watching it. I didn't realize that's a good way for me to figure out if people are watching or not watching. And the only people who are really getting in there is 4 of you, nobody else. Right. So who's seriously watching the videos?
I'm watching all the videos, Samir.
Is that Saujanya?
Yes, Saujanya.
Okay. What about Jyoti and Mansa?
If I got any doubt, I'm watching Samir.
Yeah, I think you should watch and you should do it.
Same here, but practicing.
Okay. Yeah, I would seriously, because here's my words, okay? Words of wisdom, as I call them, right? Very soon, if you do not catch up, you would see Saujanya and Romana will overtake you. So I'm setting a competition within yourselves. Saujanya and Romana have to catch up with them. At the same time, Mansa and Jyoti, you should not let them catch up with you. But the way I'm seeing Saujanya and Romana are being brutal, right? They're killing. They're running fast. And that's only happening because I can see they're working hard. They're asking questions. And please take this as a positive note from me, okay? It's not to defame you here. That's never my intention. My intention always is a student-teacher intention with all of you, right? I want all of you to do well. But what I'm telling you is, before we get into Kubernetes world, if this is not working out, getting to Kubernetes will not help us in any way, because Kubernetes has so many more things, so many more concepts to look at. I know you have work, I know you have home, but the whole purpose that we all are coming together here for this session is because we want to do something different than what we are currently doing. You all agree on that, right?
Yes, Samir.
Otherwise, we would have slept, right? I mean, I told you I love to sleep. I would have slept up until 9 o'clock. I would have just got up. There's a reason why I'm getting up early preparing for you guys. It's because I want you to put the same effort that I'm putting in. And Saujanya and Romana, please don't take it as a motivational quote from me. You still have to work hard. So don't think I'm saying I'm praising you. Yeah. So the only thing is I want you to do it, no matter what, because the concepts, no matter how simple I'm trying to make them, right? They're not simple. As soon as you drop it and then come after a week and try to pick it up, you'll forget everything. You'll not remember anything. You just have to connect those dots together, keep revising it so that the whole picture stays in your mind. Even if you're not able to solve it immediately, when somebody asks you, you'll be able to go back to your books, go back to your research, and you'll be able to know that, yeah, I can do this. This fundamentals I'm clear about. All right, let's go back to where we were here. I was telling you the hook URL can be derived from Jenkins. Here's how to do it. So if you go to manage Jenkins and configure system, advanced. So you have this GitHub over here, you have advanced, click on that. And then you have this URL over here. And this URL can actually be changed. Okay. Also, please note, it's not a good practice to use a naked token to set up GitHub. What I mean by naked token is you're just giving it a URL that it needs to call, correct? We were giving just a URL. So it's always a good practice to set up a secret. So what I'm doing is I'm going into credentials, adding a secret text, and the secret text that I've added is almost the same name basically. And while I'm setting up that URL, you saw that, right? This is in GitHub. When I'm setting up the secret basically in Jenkins, specify the new URL, I'm using this particular secret that GitHub will have to send me. So next, when I go to GitHub, I'm able to specify which secret do I want it to send when calling this URL. That's the secret. Are you understanding what I'm saying here or no? Romana?
Yes, Samir.
Yes, Samir.
All right, so let's go back. So I've given you clearly over here, create Jenkins credential with secret text, specify the shared secret in Jenkins configuration, use the same secret text when creating webhook in GitHub. Can one of you start creating a document where all these details could be captured? Instead of one of you, it should be all of you, okay? At the end of the session, we will have a playbook, that's fine. Lastly, remember, we don't need to set up GitHub web to send all events. You remember this we were doing yesterday, all events, we don't need to do all events. All events, what it means is if you go and create an issue in GitHub, even that event will be sent to Jenkins, which Jenkins would not know how to react to. So you don't want to do all event, you just want to do push event. Okay, and that works. Hope all this helps and have a good evening. All right, good morning anyway. Okay, any questions so far? I had also sent about the GitHub metadata. So you remember we had done Jenkins Master. Let's go here. And where is this? Security group. You remember in this one, inbound rule, we had opened up inbound rule for 000 yesterday to have the GitHub working. Remember that?
Yes.
Okay. I actually tried to put IPs from the GitHub metadata. Let's see if it's working. Okay. If it does not work, well, that's the first thing that I wanted to really do. So let's go back here. Let's go here. Before I go anywhere, let me go to VM demo. It's number 18. I will just go in here and update some file. Maybe just update this file. Let's see if it works. If it works, that means that metadata thing really works. Yeah, see that? So I have updated my main.tf file. And if you look at Jenkins LB-SG here, I've added those GitHub meta IPs. So GitHub promises that they will only call from these IPs. So it is not open to the whole world. It is open only to them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, Samir.
Yes.
Good.
We should give those 4 IPs, right, Samir? Not one. We should give all of them.
You should add all of them.
Okay.
Because that's what they say. If you go in here, api.github.com/meta. So they are giving for hooks. These are the IPs. So this is IPv4 IPs over here. right? And if it's a web, then these are the IPs. If it's the API, these are the IPs. If it's Git, these are the IPs, packages, so on and so forth, right? It just goes on and on and on.
Yes.
All right, so that's clear. The whole picture that I'm trying to paint over here is it's always easy for anybody to go in and update the security group and open up for the whole world. I'm repeating again and again, when you really work, you have to think production grade in your mind. There are several tutorials that you're going to watch, and many a times I really get scared when I look at those tutorials. Those tutorials are good to learn, right? The concepts, but you cannot just copy that as is and put it up for production. It is disastrous. So anytime you're working in AWS or any cloud technology, the first thing you have to talk about is the surface of attack. Do you know what a surface of attack is? Anybody knows what a surface? Yeah. So if I have my Canon is here, and
That looks like a whistle.
yeah. So Canon is attacking. What is the surface of attack? The surface of attack is the whole thing, right? What if I change it that this is the only thing that is facing, everything else is behind or whatever, you know? The surface of attack is only this. What if I put the plate like this? What is the surface of attack? It's a very small place, correct?
Yep.
Now do something similar. Do something similar. If I consider this as my object that is being attacked, somebody wants to attack it. The surface of attack is just this, correct? They cannot come and attack this way, right? I mean, if the firing is happening from here. So this is the surface of attack. So what we always say is keep the surface of attack as narrow as possible. And in AWS or any cloud technology, it is zero access by default. So even if you create a EC2 instance, the security group that is attached to it should not let any inbound. Zero surface of attack, right? Then you start opening it up for certain legitimate people. And on a certain port, by a certain IP. So you keep the surface of attack as small as possible. So my point is, do not increase the surface of attack. Do not let everybody come in. As soon as you do 0.0.0.0.0/0, you are opening it up to the whole world. Make sense?
Yes, Samir.
Okay, today I want to do something special and I have never done it. So everybody will have to help me how to do it. What I have done is I have created, okay, before I move to the next part, is there any questions, anything that we've done in the past you didn't understand and you want to ask question about?
I don't know much about Jenkins, Samir, but I didn't understand the concept of master and slave. We never talked about it, but yeah, you have briefly mentioned all along.
So that is what we are going to see today. And I'm hoping I'll be able to do it, because the problem is all of these things, right? We just do it once, configure it, and you're done. You don't keep repeating it. And when we don't keep repeating it, there is no way for us to remember. The same concept that I told you earlier, right? If you don't keep watching my videos, very soon you'll forget everything. There'll be very, very little memory left. The white matter has a very, very good property, right? It's volatile. It cleans up itself and it allows new memories to be formed, and everything goes into a subconscious mind. And if you do not have a mapping wherein your subconscious mind, the data is stored, you cannot retrieve it. Okay, but anyway, let's come back to your question. We are going to be seeing that today, but let me briefly start with it. When we installed the Jenkins, Romana, Jenkins by default has 2 executors. And I'll show it to you here. If I go to dashboard, if I go to manage Jenkins, if I go to manage nodes and clouds, and the built-in node configure. This is what I'm talking about. So by default, it has 2 executors. You can even look over here and tell how many executors. So even if I was here, right, you could look down here and tell how many executors do you really have. You have 2 executors. What does executor mean? If there are 2 jobs running and a third one comes in, the third one will have to wait for this one of those 2 jobs to complete before it takes up. So it's like a pool. Make sense?
Thread.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically it's a pool where only 2 people can have shower at a time. So if there are 2 guys already having shower here, this guy will have to sit in a wait queue, however many people are sitting over here, right? And it's like a queue. This side is open. So as soon as this guy pops out, the person who had entered first will come in, sit here. Now, if this guy pops out, there's this guy who will come and sit here. When the person who had come here next pops out, this guy will come and sit. So at any given time, there are only 2 people running it at a time. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get rid of this, guys. So when it comes to Jenkins Master, we created this master 1, which has 2 executors. The whole idea is, as part of best practices, they say you can do all your configuration, all your web console related activity using Jenkins Master, but never have runs happening on that. Because if the runs are happening here, the CPU being utilized by the runs, and the CPU is being utilized by people who are trying to come and configure something using a CLI. So they are saying, don't do that. Don't set up anything over here, set it up as 0. But what you do is you create workers. They used to call it as slaves before, but because of the derogatory name, right, slave, they said, let's not call it slave, let's call it worker. So it's called worker now, or agents, right? So you can create as many workers as possible. What we are doing today is we are trying to create just 1 worker and connect it using SSH. That's what we are trying to do. Okay.
These workers are another EC2 instance, or
yes,
okay,
it's EC2 instances.
Okay.
Yep. So they will be EC2
replica of master, but it's just that it is meant for doing the job, but not configuration.
I wouldn't call it a replica of master, to be very honest with you, because you don't need to have Jenkins installed on this. You will need Maven if you are going to do Maven. You're going to have Docker if you're going to do Docker. You're going to have Java if you need Java to be installed on it. You'll have all of that, but it doesn't need to have Jenkins installed. What it will install is a small Jenkins agent jar to have a communication between those 2.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So they must be linked with masters in somehow, right? If there is no.
That's what we are going to do, Rumana. We haven't done that yet. Okay. And I haven't done it before, so let's figure out how to do it together. All right. Everybody following, right? So far, Saujanya, you're following?
Yes, Samir.
Okay. So what I have done is I have created this worker 1 as part of Terraform. So in my Terraform, here, worker 1, I have removed everything that is Jenkins specific from this user data. So you would see that everything else is similar, but there's nothing, there's a Jenkins user for sure, which is added to Docker, but otherwise there's nothing related to Jenkins. If you see, it's all gone. Okay. So what we will do is we will try to connect to this box and see. So there is Java, there is Maven, there is Git. So all of it is there, and then Docker also is there. So that's good. So all of it is there. The only thing that we'll have to do is we'll have to have the SSH key of the master set up in the slave so that master can access it. Okay. So let's get the IP of this guy and also do a SSH in there.
The part where you have to set up the agent is yet to come, Samir.
Yeah. Yeah, first we have to set up SSH, Romana. Yes. And cd dot SSH. So there's only authorized keys. There is no SSH agent over here, right? So Mansa, tell me the command SSH keygen. What is the command?
Keygen -t RSC 4096.
That's correct?
Yeah.
I'll just create default one. So cat ID RSA pub. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's do this. And copy this guy from here. And go to the other one. Okay. So this one is SSH. What is the now they need to have the security group opened up, right? And we are in a similar situation where both of them are using the same security group. And last time we had tried and it didn't work, right? So both of them are using the same security group. If you see here, Jenkins instance SG, and guy also is using Jenkins instance SG. If I wanted to access, oh, why is it saying initializing yet? Okay. Right, I need some help here. Was it public IP or private IP that we were able to access on?
Private IP only. I think we have to open a Jenkins Master IP address on the worker node. SSH.
Yeah, so what we'll do is on the worker node, the Jenkins Master private IP, right?
Yes.
We'll open it up on the security group. Okay.
Yes.
But my only worry is the IP will change.
IP will not change.
No, when I destroy and recreate, right, IP will not be the same. You know what I mean?
Terminate the instance, then both will change.
Yeah, they both will change. So what we will have to do in Terraform is we'll have to get the private IP and then add that private IP in the security group, which is a chicken and egg situation, basically. But anyway, let's go figure it out later. First of all, let's go add it over here and see if it works.
I think you are editing on the Jenkins Master.
What? Security group is the same, right? Mansa, they're both using the same security group.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see if we want to SSH. This IP, what I've used is of the master, right?
Yes.
This one. No, 172. So let's go back here. Let's just make sure. Stress IP is 172.31.85.211. That's the same one. Yeah, that's the same one. So let's see. Yeah, that works. Okay. But you understand my point, right? What I'm trying to make, or you guys didn't understand. When I destroy the whole infrastructure, if in my security group here, where was that? In this security group, if I add, where's that? SSH, yeah, SSH. If I add this IP over here like this is not a great idea, basically.
Yes.
Right? But if I, what I will try to do is I will try to see if I can take the
Yeah,
master,
the data. Yeah.
this master, right? Jenkins master, private IP. Correct?
Yes.
So I think it is private IP, but let me just double confirm it. Please stop me if you think you're not understanding something what I'm doing. Okay. EC2, EC2, EC2. What's that?
I said I'm good.
Okay. Good. Here. And then if you search for private IP, yeah, so you do have private.
For this, right? There is
Sorry?
no, I didn't find intelligence for AWS instance.
Didn't find what, Romana?
Intelligence.
IntelliSense where? In the
Like-
website or on the IDE?
In the Terraform.
Here, you mean here?
Yeah. So you had to come out to verify whether you.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I would have loved if it would give me this one, but I don't know why, even though I have Terraform installed. Yeah, I have Terraform thing installed here actually. It should provide me IntelliSense, but for some reason it is not. We'll figure out, but not now. Let's first complete what we're doing. Okay.
Don't we need to use the data.aws instance?
No, it is not data, right? It is a resource. It's a resource.
Yeah, resource only. If we are trying to get something from that, we
No.
will use data, right? No?
No. Is that Mansa?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just hold on. I'll tell you what's the difference between data and resource in a second. Okay, first of all, what I want to do is I want to go in the EC2 instance and delete that, update the security group to remove the manual change that we did.
Not LB, right? Some instance.
No, sorry, I went to LB. This one, right?
Yeah.
Save it. And then what I'll do is here.
Terraform, not from.
Oh, shit. Yeah, see, this is where I was worried about the chicken and egg situation that I told you, right? Because AWS instance uses security group. And now we are telling security group to pick up from AWS instance. That's where the chicken and egg situation is. So what I was trying to do is we already have a resource called AWS instance. Whatever private IP it will give me, I wanted to use that private IP over here, which would not be possible because it will first have to create the security group, and that security group would be used over here. So because of this chicken and egg situation, what we will have to do is we will have to create 2 different security groups.
Yes.
You understand, right?
Yes.
So what we will do is we will take this security group. And again, I want you to really see these problems and then understand why things are done it that way. Okay. And that's the reason why we are really looking at those mistakes. What I will do is I'll keep this name as is, instance SG. Probably I should have called it as Jenkins Master SG. And the bottom one, let me clear this one here. Clear this one. And down here, let's call it as Jenkins Worker SG. Okay. In Jenkins Worker SG, if I'm anyway going to do it this way, then I technically don't even need the private IP. Okay, because I'm going to allow Jenkins instance AWS security group here, AWS security group dot Jenkins instance dot, I think it's, let's take up from this guy. I think it's ID, but just want to make sure it's ID only. There was one where we were allowing the this one. Thinking it is this, but it's a cider block. I want to allow, here, 4080 security group. That's how we have to do. Let's pick this guy. We want to allow on port 2022. That's why. Let's pick this guy from here. And we'll have to take this configuration 22, 22, so 22, 22, and we want to allow this security group here. Are you with me? Are you following what I'm trying to do?
Yeah.
22.
Yeah. Is it 2 or 22?
I'm not hearing you, Romana.
Yeah,
Is
there,
it 2 or 20? I think we made a
22,
mistake.
Samir.
You go to that
22,
last.
22.
I need to go to
Yeah.
mommy.
Okay, you guys are with me, right? What I'm trying to do, you are with me, right? So far.
Yes, sir.
Let's just look at this configuration quickly. So it's a Jenkins worker SG. Let me copy this guy. And Jenkins worker security group. And the top one is the Jenkins master security group. Just update this. And when we come down here, so ingress for cider block, nothing, 22. And name is Jenkins worker SG. And I want something more. Right, just wanted to take this one and Okay, I'm just adding a tag, basically, nothing more than that. Let's see what happens now. Okay, so 2 to add, 0 to change, 1 to destroy, which is fine. Let's do one more thing just to keep things clean. I'm going to call this as Jenkins Master SG. I'm just going to do a search and replace. Okay.
Can we also update the IP, your IP address to maybe AWS instance dot public IP? Because every time we pull in this project, right, we have to update your IP address with ours.
Well, you cannot use it as AWS instance, Romana. What you will have to do is set this up as a variable.
Variable, okay.
And then you define it in your TF-var what your IP is going to be.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, you cannot take AWS instance because that is my IP. We'll as we move forward and we'll learn a little more about Terraform, right? For example, even the blocks, we have not looked at dynamic blocks, so on and so forth. We will get to it. Okay, Terraform, apply, and now let's break everything. Mansa, Jyoti, you're following what we're doing? Yes, no?
Yes, Samir.
Okay. It's creating the security groups. So the names were blank earlier. If you see it, now it should show us something. Hopefully, it's still creating it. It says created, but where did it create it? Yeah, you see this now? So worker SG, master SG, LB SG, and the default. Makes sense, right? So LB SG doesn't have a tag. We can go ahead and add it for LB SG. I think a tag is a good best practice, basically, just so that you are able to identify easily. So let's go ahead and apply this. Okay, so now we have for all except for default, which is good. In worker SG, we should have allowed the master SG to access for 2022, which is good here, right? B18. So if I go to master SG, that should be the B18. So looks good to me. Let's see if it is really working. Terminating, and then I'm pretty sure this guy would have been turned off here. Let's go select the master. Not this one. This one. Okay, so this is master. Just keeping it there as a reference. And the other one is worker. Okay. All right, so I need the private IP of this one here, worker, and say SSH EC2 user at. I think it destroyed the instance. It destroyed the instance. So I'll have to set up the. Oh yeah, it did destroy the instance. I'll have to set up the key. Right?
Yes, sir.
So SSH keygen minus TRSA minus what?
B
390.
4096.
What is it? Minus what?
B. B.
4096.
Yes.
Get yeah, with that, all our jobs are gone. You see the pain now, right? When things get lost. Okay, so now sudo nano dot ssh authorized keys. Oh shit, what am I doing? It still doesn't allow. Oh, is that the right IP? I think it is.
Yep.
It is. Then it is using the security group. Oh, why is it using security group master? We didn't change that. Where's the AWS instance? AWS instance here, right? We should not be using master, correct? We should be using worker. You agree?
Yes,
Not
sir.
agree?
Is it worker or worked? They were, I think,
No, that's
yeah,
correct.
worker. Yes. The tag was worked.
Where do you see worked?
Tag for worker SG.
Raipur. That's a good observation. Okay, let's go ahead and apply this because anyway, we've lost everything. So let's just lose it once. But you're seeing the beauty of Terraform, right? Everybody is appreciating the beauty of Terraform.
Yes, yeah.
Right? If we do manually, things can get lost and you don't know what manually you had done. And now if you apply it back to Terraform, you have it as code and you can reuse it. And now if we get to that nirvana state that I'm talking about with JCSC, plugin manager, we already did JCSC, and then being able to back up your jobs and then restoring your jobs, then we would never lose anything, right? We will always have a process to get back to the state where we are in currently. So right now with this, the EC2 instance being destroyed, all the jobs that we did yesterday are all lost. You figure that out, right?
Yes. Samir, JCask is not a solution for backing up workspace, right?
No, it is not.
Okay.
You should not be asking me that today, Romana, because
Yeah, you mentioned it, but I'm trying to recall what was the solution you mentioned for saving the jobs.
we didn't actually talk about that solution, but there is a way we can do a snapshots in AWS if it's AWS. If it's a
Right.
non-AWS, we could have a cron job that will basically back up that particular directory and put it up into a different backup folder, which can be continuously, basically after every 1 minute or 10 minutes or whatever. So you could set up a cron job. Cron job is basically a scheduled job.
Okay.
A job that runs on schedule. We haven't done that yet. So I think with AWS, the easiest way that I would go to is to have a EBS snapshot created every day at some particular time. So we have a day's backup.
Mhm.
Okay. It did create it. Let's go back. This would have thrown us. Okay, this is good. It has thrown us out from worker. So let's go and anyway do both. So worker, where are you? So master is this.
You have to generate key again, right, Samir?
No, I don't need to because master never got destroyed. It's the same one. So if I do cat, set. Master was never destroyed. So that's the key. So I might have to use this key and set it up on the slave. It was destroyed. So give me 1 second. Let's go to worker. What happened? It's running or not running? It's still initializing. So let's give it some time. So it got the IP. Because we just changed that one security group, right? I don't know if we change a security group, why should it? Oh, it is destroying it because there's no other default security group assigned to that instance. There should be at least one security group assigned. That's the reason why it's destroying the EC2 instance. If we had a default security group assigned to it, although we changed just one security group, the whole instance wouldn't have been destroyed. You know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yes.
An instance could have more than one security group. If you only have one security group and if you're destroying that security group, it doesn't know what security group to assign to it. So it will destroy your EC2 instance also.
Yeah, if you would have done this via UI, then it wouldn't have
Yes.
allowed to save it, right? But
Correct.
using Terraform, we did it.
Yep.
And yep.
Exactly. Sudo nano. See, this is gone. So I'm not going to add any comments anymore. Just copy this and paste it. All right, this is done here. SSH EC2 user at the private IP. Yep, that works. Make sense? So this is a better solution, right? When we didn't use any IP specifically. So we are using in the worker security group, we are letting my IP to SSH over here, and we are letting the security group of the master to SSH into it. So any instance that takes this security group will be able to SSH, not anybody else. So instead of adding IP addresses over here, it makes a life a lot easier. If there are more than one masters, I will never have to come and update this security group. This. Do you get me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, this part is done. Let's go and see what we need to do to get the other piece.
Can there be more than one master?
We will have when we talk about high availability.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, that question you shouldn't have asked because there was an assignment given to Jyoti and Mansa where we talked about high availability. Remember? I think today's a day when everybody's forgetting things. Let me quickly talk about that. I forgot which session we had that in, but
Actually, we don't need to use the 8080 port open, right?
what is that?
On the slave missions, worker nodes, we don't need to use the 8080 port open, right?
I don't think so because it's going to talk to it using SSH.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Romana, there was this thing we had talked about high availability. Remember when we talked about getting to the nirvana state? Each one of them will have its own worker nodes. This guy will have its own worker nodes. Okay, these are partitioned through 2 different regions. And then there is a load balancer in front, which is Nginx or Apache, HTTPT, whatever, which is doing a load balancing to one of them. It will only have one of them as active. I'm just trying to give you a picture that you can connect to. And then there's a user who's coming over here, who's always going to this master and talking to these particular nodes. Technically, all of this can be in an auto-scaling group if required. It may not be, right? Now, if this goes down for whatever reason, the load balancing will have to be updated to point to this as active now. So there's never a downtime. That is what we had talked about. And this is where we talk about master 1 and master 2.
Makes sense, Samir.
Yeah. And we have talked about it. It's not the first time I'm talking. This architecture we've talked about. Okay. The most important piece, which I'm not very sure about how I'm going to do, is what we need to try to do now. Okay. We have what is that? We have 2 instances. One is master, one is slave. One is master, one is slave. And we have set up a SSH from master to slave. We have done that, correct? Now what we want to do is we want to go and see if we are able to set up the node. That is where I will need your help, or we will have to Google, okay? Has anybody done it before? Has anybody set up a node before?
Yes, Samir, just while practicing, I did that.
Okay, so this is down for a reason, because the instances are down, right? So let's go look at our security group. Security. Okay, you know what? I would want you to give me directions, because I have already shown you this several times. So now when I'm going to Jenkins Lotus Ops, it is saying temporarily unavailable. What do you want me to go and see? Where do you want me to go? Security group, target group, load balancer. Where do you?
Target group. Let's start with instance SG.
Start with instance. Instance is already up. So if you want to go and check here,
target group.
Yeah, give me 1 second. This is master, right? System.
Status Jenkins.
That is not found.
Because this is node mission. You are connected to node.
This one? I thought this was the node.
But through the master mission, we connected to node mission.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Thank you. Okay, so what do you want me to do? System.
Status Jenkins.
Okay, that's running. So that's a good sign, right? This is running. So now you want me to go to target group. So let's go to target group and see whether we have anything healthy. We don't have the registered instances at all, because the instance that was registered got deleted, right? So we'll have to register the target. And from here, which one do you want? Master?
Yes, master.
Okay. And then register pending targets. And let's wait for it to initialize. You guys are becoming expert. I'm feeling proud of myself. Don't you think you're able to understand this whole concept now?
Yes, Samir.
Yeah, it's healthy.
But we are getting errors sometimes.
You should not get error. That's what I'm telling you. Saujanya and Romana are running fast. You'll have to catch up. I'm sorry, I don't mean to demean, okay? I'm just trying to motivate you. I know.
Yeah,
all
that's
the pain.
okay, Samir. It's a very good time for them. We don't have that much of time. Yeah.
Exactly. They don't have, and I think that's it. That's what is playing to their advantage, right? Many a times when I talk to Romana, I tell the same thing. Everything that's happening right now in this particular period of time is playing to your advantage. That's the same for Saujanya. And with you and Jyoti, I completely understand you have to work. There's stress at office, right?
Yeah,
Even there you're learning.
Last week it's totally busy week for me, Samir.
Yeah.
3
Yeah.
days
No, I
after
completely
6 o'clock
understand.
also, yeah.
I completely
have to
understand, but
discuss
my responsibility and my duty is to keep motivating you, right? And
Yes,
to me personally, okay, I'm talking about me. I really get motivated when somebody criticizes me and say you cannot do it.
Yes.
I never take it as a negative, demeaning situation to me. If somebody comes and challenges me, to me, that's a challenge. I'm going to take it up. Okay. And while you're working with me, and even after you stop working with me and go out in the wild, please take that negative criticism positively.
Yeah, sure.
Right? It always makes you a better person. When somebody comes and tells you, no, you cannot do it. Please take up a simple problem. Don't take a complex problem. And you just sit and say, no, I'm going to work on this. I want to show this guy that I can solve this problem. But anyway, enough of motivation. Let's go and cat over here.
Sudo.
Will it not give me cat if I do without sudo? Wow. Who knows that?
I've been reminding him every day.
Right. All right. Install. We went a little slower than what I expected to go today, but I hope it's adding value to your learning. I mean, you're not feeling it's waste of time.
Not at all, Samir.
Right. Let's see. Okay. Let's see if we're able to do something. Okay. And please help me. Manage nodes. New node. Permanent node. Worker number 1. Create. Let's leave it execute as one root directory. I want to understand what this is. An agent needs to have a directory dedicated to Jenkins, specify the path. So we'll keep it as where Jenkins only, okay? We could keep it as where lib Jenkins, but let's keep it as where Jenkins for now. And label, I'm going to give it as Linux, just for the sake of it for now. We don't even need to give label for now, but I'll tell you what's the purpose of label. Usage, use node as much as possible. Launch agent, I want to use via SSH. Host, what is the host IP? Worker, where is it? What happened? What happened? Oh, hi, how are you? Cool. Let's take this, okay? And credentials, we don't have any credential. I don't want it. I want to connect using the key. Is there anything?
To provide the private IP, we provided the public IP to the node machine. We copied the public IP.
No, this is private IP.
Yeah, now we need to copy that private IP, ID underscore RSA.
Oh, and then set up the credential, right? Is that what you're
We
saying?
can add, here we can add directly.
Here? Jyoti, is that you?
Yes, Samir.
So what do you want me to do? Tell me.
Jenkins.
Okay.
Add credentials. Add credentials. Yes.
Okay. Jenkins.
Yes. Kind is SSH username with private key. Okay.
Okay. This.
Provide any ID and description.
Okay. Let's call it as Jenkins worker
Integration.
SSH creds, right?
Yes.
And then save description. I'll take it over here. Username is EC2 user, right?
Yes.
Okay. And
Enter.
right.
Enter directly. Click on
Private key is required, right?
Yes, private key.
Of master.
Master, yes. Cat dot SSH ID underscore RSA
Okay.
with this private key.
Okay. And
Directly add, click on add.
okay.
Yes. Come,
That's
okay. Add, yes.
All right. Anything else?
That's all I think so here.
Let's try it. Let's say save and try it, right? I mean, anything I have to select over here. Let's try. Just trying to connect to it. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it's been at least 3 years that I've done this, and I had done it for Windows machine. I never did it for Linux machine. It should show us the logs basically when we click here and log. Just trying to SSH connection failed with IX. Key exchange was not finished. No known host file was found.
Before this, we should
Host.
run the slave.jar, right, Samir?
Sorry.
Before this, we should register it as a slave, right? In the master mission. We should run slave.jar or something. Isn't it?
Yeah. So what is there? Do you know? Can you Google?
Yeah, sure.
So it is saying add the known host. Just give me 1 second, okay? I'll just be back. Okay, in that time, just Google and keep things ready.
We should register it as
So what we did was we first of all created the worker node, right? And on the worker node, we created this path called where lib Jenkins. Okay, and we gave permission to EC2 user on the where lib Jenkins. So what we did was we used this command, change owner of where lib Jenkins to EC2 user. Okay, that's what we did. So now if you look at just one level up and do ls lrt and you look at Jenkins, EC2 user owns it. That's the only thing we did. And the next thing that we did was we created the authorized keys in this particular folder, Jenkins folder. That was one of the critical pieces to do this. So this is what I had to create it. And in this authorized key, I had to put the public key of the master. So if I do a cat authorized keys, this is the public key of the master, whatever we have created on the master, right? So cat that's the one. This is the one. So AAB3, that's the one, AAB3, okay? That is the only thing that we had to do on the slave, nothing else. Now, when we come to Jenkins, we had to go ahead and create a credential first, okay? So we created a credential called Jenkins worker SSH. Like if I go in here, whatever ID you give is fine, whatever description you give is fine. User, we are using EC2 user, but we will set it up as Jenkins user eventually. For now, it's fine. And over here in the concealed confidentiality, we entered directly the private key of the master. Okay, that's the one it will use to connect to the slave. That's done. Now we came in here, we went to manage Jenkins. We went to manage add nodes, and we created this node, worker node. And if I go to configure agent, this is where we added the name, we added the directory that we give access to EC2 user. That's the directory over here. The label can be anything. It is basically grouping more than one node. Right now, we just have one node, so label doesn't make sense, but it's fine. When we refer to it in Jenkins and we want to use this agent, we can refer to it as Linux. So if we had cluster of servers under it, It'll send it to any of the server which has the label Linux. That's what this name means. Down here, we said launch SSH agent. We give the IP address, the private IP address of the worker node, and the credential that we had created, we selected from here. And over here, we set the non-verifying verification strategy. Okay. For this, here's where what I'm thinking. Okay. If I go to the if I go here and if I go to .ssh and if I look at known host, okay, cat. Here, there's only one host which is available, which is 172.31.91.115. That is this one now. This got added because we said non-verifying. Okay. Technically, what we should have done is we could have just added this host over here, the details. Okay. And then we could have changed this to known host file. That means it will allow you to connect only to entries that I added over here. Okay, that is more secure. So I will save this and let's see if we're able to disconnect and launch the agent again with that entry, right? It is failing. Key exchange was not finished. Connection is closed. So it doesn't like that. Looks like the known host, and it is looking in where-lib jenkins.ssh known host. No known host file was found. Please ensure one is created. Let's see why it is. Oh, because it's looking in where-lib Jenkins. So let's go ahead and create it there. Okay. So on the master, let's say sudo nano this, and I want to copy this guy from here, and that's what I will enter here. Control X, yes. Oh, didn't I say? Didn't I say sudo? I said sudo. Why?
No .ssh directory in the where-lib Jenkins.
Oh, that directory is not there, .ssh. So let's create that directory, okay? mkdir, where, and this is on master, okay? What I'm doing, I'm just trying to see how I can use a production grade way of doing it. Instead of saying don't verify, I want it to verify against the host that I put in over here, okay? Where lib Jenkins dot
it's saying we should have it on the worker, I think.
Sorry, what is that?
The error message is we should have this known hosts on the worker.
Is that what it's saying? Where do you see that?
The error message.
Opening SSH to this is the server and seeing no host on. How do you know it is on worker and not master? You don't know, right?
No, sir.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's server. And I'll tell you why I'm thinking it that way. It's just thinking now. Done? Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and I'll tell you what was my rationale for this. The rationale is pretty simple. You have a machine over here. You have your machine over here. This is worker. This is master. When master wants to connect to worker, master should be taking its private key. Okay. The public key of the master should have been installed over here. Okay, and this one is x.y.z.a IP address, let's say. Okay, this is the public key from this machine, which is installed over here in where lib Jenkins .ssh / authorized keys, correct? You agree on that? It's here. Well, not SSH, directly under Jenkins. So this is wrong. Let me just take this and say remove this. So where live Jenkins authorized keys? That's where it is expecting it to be there. And the key which is put over here is the public key of the master. You agree on that? No, yes, no, nothing.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes, Samir.
Okay. Now, when you do this, if you remember, anytime you're trying to do SSH, it says, do you want to add it to the known host? When it says, do you want to add it to the known host, it's actually trying to add it over here, known host, which is apparently in where lib Jenkins .ssh known host, that is on the master. Not this. It's over here. In this known host, we have added the IP address of the private machine. This XYZ goes over here. That completes the whole picture. That completes the whole picture. That is what we had to do. So now what it is doing is, it is, first of all, it is establishing the connection to this one. And what is the connection using? SSH.
SSH.
Because we have the public key over here and we have set up the known host, it is able to connect the SSH. As soon as it's connected the SSH, so what Jyoti was telling me is go and install the remote jar or the slave jar. And I said, no, we don't need to, because as soon as you connect it, this guy should be able to do whatever it needs to do on this particular path where live Jenkins. So the second critical part was to give access to the EC2 user for this machine, for this particular path. As soon as we did that, our connection is established. Any question here?
The jar file that we brought in on worker, that wasn't of any use.
No, we never downloaded anything. There's no
Oh.
slave jar. This remote jar, the remoting was automatically installed by SSH agent. That's what I just said, Romana.
So what about the agent you were talking about, Samir? We need to have agent on worker thread, worker machine, you said, right?
I said that? I never said that.
In the beginning. When I said, do we need to have, yeah, you said we don't need Jenkins on worker, but we have to have agent, something you said, right?
I don't think so. If you can catch me up in the recording somewhere, please send me that.
Sure.
What I just said was you have a master and you have workers. This guy talks to this guy through JNLP. Maybe I didn't even mention about JNLP, but there is this remoting agent that is sitting over here, remote agent. So if you look at that, this is what it is, the remoting jar, that's the agent. But what I told you during the conversation was the only connectivity between these two is SSH, nothing else. And that is true. After it connected to SSH, it installed JNLP or the remoting jar so that it can talk to each other and share data between these two. But I never told you there has to be agent.
Okay.
You and Mansa were telling me that you have to install the slave agent or whatever. And I'm telling you, no, we don't need to do that.
Okay. So maybe when we are building that node, this is being done behind the scenes, right? Remoting jar is getting installed on the node, I believe.
No, come again. What are you saying, Romana?
The JNLP or remoting.jar file that we saw on the worker node.
Okay, before you go there, let me ask you, when I drew this red color arrow, were you paying attention?
I got the picture, yes. I got the pictures, I mean, but I got stuck on the fact that you said we have to have agent, and that's where all those configurations.
No, you're telling that to me. I'm telling you, I never told you there has to be agent.
Maybe my bad then.
Yeah, what I'm telling you is after it did a SSH connection, it went and installed the remote.jar. If you're calling that remote.jar as agent, or if I called a remote.jar as agent, that is explicitly done by the master is what I'm trying to tell you, Romana. And this is the arrow. The first arrow is establishing the SSH connection. In our case, the connection itself was not being established. And what we did to get the connection established is we set up the known host, we set up the authorized keys, and that's it, nothing else, right? And we gave access to EC2 user on this particular folder. As soon as the agent was launched, Jenkins took care of connecting to it and installing whatever it need to install in this where-lib Jenkins. And that's where I'm showing you over here that remoting jar could be the agent that you're talking about.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to conclude. Yeah. I got it now.
That's what I'm not understanding. You're asking or you're telling is what I'm not understanding. I think you're telling.
It's kind of both. But I'm clear now, Sameer.
Okay.
Now. Yeah.
Anybody else has any questions? Your team answer.
Clear, Samir.
Okay.
Clear.
Saujanya, do you understand?
Yes, Samir.
Okay. This is one thing which I had never done. Okay. And I believe none of you had done because everybody was hunting for information. So it's a good thing. What I would want to do out of this is where it's where you have to be interested in, right? What I want to do is I need a capability to add new worker nodes as I wish. And as part of automation, those agents should automatically get hooked up to the master that is available. That is what is your assignment for today. If you're able to do what we did here, register the agent manually without much effort, because all the effort that we had to spend, we already spent in this session, right? Now there should not be any effort because you know all the clue. You know there's number 1, you know there's number 2, and you know there's number 3. And then the only thing that you have to do is get into Jenkins, manage nodes, and add a new node. And make sure that the path is here, and make sure that the user that you specified is the user that you're using, and make sure that you're using this private key while setting the credential, and you're all set. Correct?
Right.
Perfect. That is done. But now I want you to go explore AWS's auto scaling group. Just start reading about it. Okay. And you will have to somewhere connect it to Terraform in some way so that auto scaling group will create these nodes. And there has to be something running over here which will be able to hook up. So the tip for you is look at Jenkins Terraform provider. Okay. If you ask me, Samir, have you done it? No, I haven't done it. But I think I'm able to connect the dots and say the Jenkins Terraform provider might have something to dynamically connect to the worker. Okay. And this is a tip for you. Not every assignment that I give you might have a possible solution, right? This might not be the solution, but the requirement is clear to you, right? Is the requirement clear?
Yes, Samir. So replica of worker threads, right?
Yeah. So let me tell you over here. I mean, I know we are above time, but I have the master. We'll talk about 2 masters later. Okay. Right now we just have 1 master. We have created a worker with a very hard work today. All of our effort went in there, right? And you saw how much of effort we put in here. What I want to do is I want a capability to be able to spin up new worker nodes as I wish. And those worker nodes should get hooked up as agents. Workers or agents, okay? I mean, if you're thinking that when I said agents, it's agents, it could be workers or agents, or even people call it as slaves. Okay, they should automatically get hooked up over here. That is the idea. This is requirement number 1. Are you with me? Are you clear on the requirement number 1?
Yes.
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 The requirement number 2 is going to be much more complex. Okay, what the requirement number 2 will be? I have a master over here. I want to have some kind of logical grouping over here. The minimum node that I want is 1. So as soon as the job starts, it will connect to this guy and start building over here. As soon as the load increases, that means the CPU spikes up over here. I want a new node to be added automatically and dynamically hooked up to Jenkins. So as the load increases, it should keep adding more to a maximum limit that I've given before failing. As soon as the load decreases, it should start killing, and it should just have 1. That means in the middle of the night, when there are no jobs happening, there'll only be 1. But when in the peak of the day, when there's a huge load happening, it will go to the maximum. And this is what is called elasticity or auto scaling. Okay, what is elasticity, right? Elastic, a rubber band, the size is this, but you can stretch it and take it up to here. And then when you leave it, it bounces back and comes here, right? So this is the stretch capability. The minimum is this, and you can stretch it to the maximum over here. That's what elasticity is, or auto scaling is.
Where we have to leverage what you were saying, AWS auto scaling feature.
You possibly will be. AWS auto scaling will not be the only, like I told you earlier, right? The X and the, what was that other one? We had used the X and something else, right? To cut a tree.
Yeah, got yes.
What was the other one?
Tree.
Hammer.
Hammer. I forgot.
Different tools.
Yeah. So we will have to use several tools to solve this problem. And I'm really interested in this because I have never done this. And I don't know whether you figured out by now. If there's something I've never done, I'll be super excited about it. Okay. So this, we want to reach to this, but to reach to this, your level is not here yet. Your level is here. So try to explore as much as possible how to add this manually or using Terraform, and how to automatically register them as Jenkins agents or workers or slaves. Make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So please don't miss out on those assignments, okay? Because these are something which probably nobody has done. So you can try to Google, try to find information. You might not find a single page which tells how this is done in one single blog. Hopefully not. If you get it, you're lucky. Okay. All right. Any other questions? I'm going to stop recording.